very good morning to you and welcome to the Morning Dew Show here on Isaac TV, the cradle of goodness. My name is Ann Mungai.
And my name is Ann Mungai Kilambo. And remember to keep your conversations coming through our social media platforms, that is Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our SMS number is running below your screens. Good morning.
Yeah, the hashtag is always the Morning Dew Show. Now, today we have a lot lined up for you, but first, let's look at what is happening on the headlines.
And today being July the 18th, just having some few days to go before that 9th election. And these are some of the stories making headlines on the Daily Nation today, being the 18th. Making of an opaque election, that is on the front page of the Daily Nation. And the story goes on page 10 and 11. We'll be talking about it in depth in a little while. Then there's also another story about the oil barons of Kenya. That's a story that talks about the fuel shortage in the country. And these are some of the stories that we'll also be talking about, is how Uhuru spent 1.5 trillion on roads and 356,000 applied for 14,000 teaching slots. We'll have these and more stories just in a bit.
Yes. Okay, looking at the Standard here, the story that is making headlines says Chief Minister posts double-edged swords. That's a very big story and it's on page 6. We're going to look at that. There's another story here on page 4 that says what Kenya can learn from Sri Lanka on debt. We're going to look at that. But right now, let's review the newspapers.
Yeah, and just looking at the first page of the Daily Nation, that is making of an opaque election. I just want us to discuss this a little bit so that we get to be on the same page. And it says the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is dancing with fate by keeping open secrets about the whereabouts of 60,000 new polling stations, tender details about the deal with the technology provider, that is Smartix, and also the fact that the tallying of election results will not be as real time and digital as promised, since the agency will rely on pictorial rather than alphanumeric data from voting centers. Yeah. So let's run to page 10 and 11 and see in depth what these guys are talking about, having the IEBC do an opaque election. Anyways, this is what they have to say. There are questions over due diligence done on company providing elections, technology, and failure to make public voters register audit report. And before we talked about this audit report that was supposed to be given to the public, that is the KMPG audit that came out a week ago. Yeah, like a week ago. So the thing is, nobody knows the number of locations of new polling stations. So there are like 6,000 polling stations that are very new, and no one knows what they are whereabouts, the location of where they are. So this brings about a lot of mistrust and just the fact that Chebukati told people that, we are going to have a transparent, fair, and good election. But right now we don't have that because there are so many things they haven't talked about, like things that are coming up, like now the 6,000 polling stations. These 6,000, we don't know where the location of these polling stations are. Then there is also an issue with a company that has been obligated to monitor our technology, that is Semantics, where we have not been told how they're going to do it. There was no due diligence done to the company. Then you hear about the ballot boxes that have also been they were printed without other people's knowledge. So there's so many things that the IEBC is not really telling us, and so we have it on this page, that is page 10 and 11. There's also a breakdown of the new polling stations. There are about 47. So I don't know about these 6,000.
Why don't we know where they are? That's the question I'm asking myself, because actually right now it's just 21 days.
Yeah.
That's rough roughly 3 weeks, right?
Mhm.
To elections.
Mhm.
We should be knowing where they are.
Mhm. So, if you look at this story, the first thing we've talked about is the number of locations of the new polling stations. Then people also want really to know about the results transmission, because they've not clearly told us how they're going to do it, because they've already said the results will be flowing through the pictorial. So now, instead of the numerical one, so this will take time because it has to load the photos first. Then that's when they can be tallied, So those are some of the questions. The transmission path and the circumstances surrounding abandonment of text data to guarantee live streaming, because text data would have worked, but right now it won't be possible. And the media has also been given a chance to help in the tallying process, but it will only help in the overseeing of the tallying process. But the announcements of who is the winner will be done by the IEBC chair, that is Chebukati. So these are some of the issues. Lack of transparency in preparation of election, as key polling data and information is not available. We don't have the data, we don't have the information, and they're supposed to give this information to the stakeholders as much as they also give it to the media. And no one so far is getting this. I think the chairman already is sitting on this. It's like a secret, but it's an information that should come out to the public.
So how is IEBC responding to this? Because obviously they have to have a response or an answer to as why we don't know the politicians.
When he was asked, there's something he said here. He said, Mr. Chebukati, that is, he said, I think it would be proper if those questions could be directed to the company. I cannot speak on their behalf, he said.
This now is regards to now the Semantics.
Yeah, the Semantics International. Yeah, and we have to bear in mind that the Semantics International has had a controversial track record that has seen multiple countries question the reliability of its technology. This beats the question: why would you give them if there are so many countries that have gone through this and they've had questions about it? Why is it that we really trusted them with this? Because this is a decision-making change in the history of Kenya. Why would we put them in their hands after their reviews? We've already seen their reviews are not really up to standards that they're trying to set. Then there are also questions over the due diligence that we had talked about. If there was some due diligence done on the company providing the elections technology and the failure to make public a voter register audit report 2 months after it was finalized, and that is the KMPG. Yeah, you remember we analyzed that report at some point. Yes, and till now it's 2 months down the line, we haven't had any of them coming publicly and telling us, this is the audit report. Considering the fact that an audit is just something that helps you to clear up things before they really get out of hand. It's like a pre-visit. So you see what you need and what you don't need and make it perfect before that time comes. And it was released 2 months before. Now, right now, the public hasn't received that information. So we are not really confident that IEBC is going to give us a transparent, fair election as it has promised, because there are so many things that are not in place. Because if you look at the use of IEBC, says it will use photograph of results declaration forms rather than alphanumerical data of the results as their primary data source. This could delay real-time transmission. And when the real-time transmission is delayed, there are loopholes that can come in there, So the IEBC has to really rectify this within this little time, so that we have confidence in them. But so far, I don't see them giving us a very, very tangible thing.
It's very sad, but we hope they're actually going to do something about it, because we're almost there. So if we are starting to have doubts and questions in our minds. And for example, Mr. Chibukati is saying that such questions should be directed to maybe the company. You know, the question that we are going to ask ourselves is, who are we going to be turning to if the person who is supposed to be answering questions is not answering? But we hope they're going to actually work on that.
And talking about some of the things they had to reply, there's something they replied here about the telling sentence. The lobbies want IEBC to release the voter audit report that was done by the KPMG. Without a credible registrar, it is difficult to assess the quality or honesty of the elections. They say we also saying the same thing. But what is more concerning is the Commission's shock admission of having failed to unearth the dark past of Smartix International before awarding the firm a multi-billion shilling voter identification and results transmission contract. So that is the biggest thing they are talking about here. Why would we give these people our only leverage that we have to getting an honest and fair elections, and without even concerning checking their background or their due diligence, how they are going to perform it? Then there's a response here, responding to the question on whether IEBC Secretariat did due diligence before awarding the 4 billion tender to the Dutch firm. IEBC Chief Executive Marjan Hussein admitted that the controversial past of the company in past polls did not come to their attention. He said the revelations surrounding the history of the company, which supplied the Kenya Integrated Election Management System (KIMS) were never cited during the evaluation process, putting into question the integrity of the procurement process. Yeah.
That is actually, if Mr. Manjan Hussein is saying that they were not brought to attention, according to now this Dutch farm issue. I don't know how that is working, but there's something that we don't know.
We're just hoping that the Semantics International probably will have people who will be able to come down and maybe clear out some issues, give us confidence in them, because even the IEBC electoral governors don't know anything about this. That's why they say we'll have to ask the company some of these questions, because they are not okay with that. Yeah.
Now in the Standard, now there's a story that is big here on page 6. Yeah, let's quickly look at it. It's actually the issue of this position that is called the Chief Minister. And it says, Chief Minister, a poisoned chalice. Now, I want to read maybe the highlighters. Mudavadi and Kalonzo would come into government with the voters they deliver. Failure to stipulate the mandate of the post is potential breeding ground for conflict. Now, this Chief Minister is Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka have been promised by Musalia Mudavadi has been promised this position by Mr. Ruto, and Kalonzo Musyoka on the other hand has been promised the same position by Mr. Raila. And only one person will get this position. So will this thing cause a conflict between them? Because we know that in their race has been like the same, because both of them have been vice presidents. Both of them have been as in their race has been the same. Both of them have been cabinet ministers and leaders of political parties. So will this cause a conflict? Because one has to win. I mean, and the other one has to remain in the government. The other one won't.
But I don't see how it creates a conflict, because if Azimio wins, then that will be Kalonzo's seat. If UDA wins, that will be Musalia's seat. So I don't see where the conflict is coming from. It's only that if they can push the numbers on their side, then they'll be able to get it on their side. So I don't see the conflict coming in it.
This position is very lucrative, and I want to give you a sneak preview of what the chief minister position entails.
In fact, you should have started by telling us what does he do, because I don't
Let me now get there. Now, okay, the position of a chief minister entails can be derived from President Uhuru Kenyatta's Executive Order Number of 2018, which gave Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i powers to chair a committee of the coordination and implementation of all government projects. It's like now the way Mr. Matiang'i was given
the CS.
Yes, that seat. So it's like maybe either of Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi will get 30% to role in the government. Now, it says here, and I want to quote what maybe Mr. Nkanga said, the president will be at liberty rather to create the position and draw the hierarchy and the roles and responsibilities of the person, but most of the times it will be to ensure the coordination of different ministries. So this seat is the third most powerful seat after president, deputy president.
Okay.
Yes. And that is why it is maybe something that they stood, because like Mr. Kalonzo went back to Azimio because after he was promised now this seat, because it's lucrative, as I've said. And Mr. Mkangi continues saying that if the position was not discussed well, it will be a recipe for squabs and political pitfalls. They say that the seat is as big or small as the occupier of the office. So it actually depends on the person that will actually occupy that seat. Yes, and his delivery. Failure to stipulate the mandates of the position will be potential breeding ground for conflict that will affect operations of either of the government. Yes.
You see, that's now brings me to the point where if this seat is very important to these people, because they'll be able to be part of the government and maybe implement some of the ideas that they have in it. So, but the question still begs or still stands that the people, Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi, have to do a little more work so that they get the voters on their side, so that they will be able to get that. Because we remember someone like Kalonzo at some point left the Azimio party, and wanted to also run for presidentship under his own party, that is the Wiper Party. But I think these are some of the promises made to him. So it's all a matter of time on the 9th August polls elections, and then we'll be able to know if the Azimio side will win, then Kalonzo Musyoka will be part of that, and he will be the chief minister. If it goes the other way to UDA, then Musalia Mudavadi will be on that seat of the chief minister.
But what you should know though is that this seat is not provided for by the law. So the president can say that it can create the position. That is why that is why either Mudavadi or Kalonzo will be third in command in either Ruto or Raila's government. That is why it is a very nice, lucrative.
Because it's you are appointed by the president himself. So that's why it is easier if one. Because if UDA wins, we won't expect Kalonzo Musyoka to be there. So we'll be expecting Musalia Mudavadi, because that is his government, his team that has won. So those are some of the things we'll be looking at the 9th of August after we voted. Then we'll be able to see who takes that seat.
Imagine being entitled to 30% of the government's positions. That is very lucrative.
It's very lucrative, and so many people would want to do that, to be in that office. So that's why it beats it. I'm telling you, they have to do extra hard than everyone else to make sure that their respective parties win, so that they are able to get into that office and we'll also be looking at how they are faring on. Whoever wins to be in that office will also want to know what he is going to do for us as Kenyans, being that they have a lot of powers, 30%.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
a lot of power.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is, okay, that is that, and we have so many more stories here on this standard. But right now, we need to take a very short commercial break, but we will be back in a bit. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Morning Dew Show here on Diasac TV, the cradle of goodness. Now, before that break, we were talking about newspaper reviews, but now on this segment, we're going to dwell more on politics. This is now the political segment, and there's a very, very, very interesting story on the Standard, page 4, and I would like us to maybe talk about it more in details. And it says, "Can Kenya go the Sri Lanka way?" That is the main question actually today. So we're going to go to get into details with it, give you the highlighters of between Kenya and Sri Lanka, and at the end of the day, we want you to answer that question: can Kenya go the Sri Lanka way? Now, I want to read the highlighters. It says that there are a lot of similarities between Kenya and Sri Lanka, including high debt levels and a fraction of public debt to GDP being over 65%. Analysts warn the economic turmoil in Sri Lanka could easily be replicated in Kenya. So we know right now that the economy of Sri Lanka is beyond
Salvation.
Yeah, it's on top there. Now, let's look at both similarities between Kenya and Sri Lanka. So it says here, both, that is Kenya and Sri Lanka, both have high debt levels. The fraction of public debt to GDP is gross domestic product. So the fraction of public debt to the GDP is over 65% for both countries. Another thing, external debt is 75% of gross domestic product, that is GDP. And another thing, just like Sri Lanka, Kenya's fraction of expensive commercial loans has been growing every year. Every year. So, and we want to look at it according to now specialists, what they have been saying and analyzing. And it says here that there are several similarities between Kenya and Sri Lanka. For example, both have high debt levels. That is now the GDP is over 65%. However, while external debt alone is 70% of GDP, in Sri Lanka, in Kenya is at 35%. So that's at least a good thing. Sri Lanka is at 70%, but we are at 35%.
It's just half of that.
Yes, but worryingly, this has also been growing fast in the last 9 years. In 2013, Kenya's external debt as a percentage was at 26%. Moreover, just like Sri Lanka, Kenya's fraction of expensive commercial loans has been growing, though it is not as high as one of Asia's of now Sri Lanka, that is at 47%. Okay, and I continue to read. Expensive loans have meant that much of taxes are going to pay in debt. Now, in 2013, this is something that I highlighted and I want us to look at it. In 2013, in every 100 shillings that was collected by KRA, that is Kenya Revenue Authority, only 15% was used to pay on debt. But this has doubled to 32 shillings as of now.
That is,
in every 100 shillings, 32
shillings is paying our debt.
Yes. So, can Kenya go the Sri Lanka way?
You know, first I think it might or it might not. There are the two sides of a coin, because so far we are headed that direction. Yeah, depending on all the things that are being talked about, all the information given unto us, it's like we are going that road. But in some way, we would also try not to get there, because we are seeing how they're struggling now that they are there. So there are some measures that we might put in place that can help the country turn back around and see what's the best way out for us not to get there. That is the Kiswahili saying, utajenga kuta. Utajenga, yeah. Usipoziba ufa utajenga kuta. So for now, we are the ufa side. We are still an ufa, you know. Hatujafika kwa kuta, but we just find a way of not getting there because we are headed that side. Yeah. Now that if 100 shillings was 15 shillings was got from 100 shillings to pay our debt. Right now we are 32. What if we continue with the same current flow? We'll be having for every 100 shillings, maybe 50 shillings is paying our debt. And that, if you look at that, it means the KRA will have to increase our taxes, you know. We'll be taxed in issues that we are not supposed to be taxed. So those are some of the things that we are thinking about, because now the living standards will be higher, and that's why you see people in Sri Lanka had to storm the president's palace because they were dying of hunger. Because there are so many things that were levied against them, like cutting of taxes to some percentage. You know, we don't want to go that road because for us now it will be hard. Harder than they've seen it right now. Yeah.
And I want to quote what maybe Wahoro Ndoho, who is an economist, said. And I quote, "You can always go the Sri Lanka situation." Says now Wahoro Ndoho, an economist and public finance expert. According to Ndoho, Sri Lanka is a classic example of politics adding fuel to the fire. So even before COVID pandemic came and gutted Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves, President Rajapaksa, if I said that right, in a bid to be re-elected. Let me read that again. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic came and gutted Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves, President Rajapaksa, in a bid to be re-elected, cut taxes by 25% to entice voters.
Who does that?
So that means that the VAT was at 15%. Now it was cut. Now it became to 5%, to 8%. You know, cutting your revenues by 25% is a lot. So how is the government making money? You know, those are the things we are asking ourselves, and it is also right to say that politics can fuel a country that is really going down. Because right now apart from the politics which everyone is looking at, we were thinking that, you know what, we have bigger problems. You know, as much as we want to put our faith in the fact that we can by choosing the right leaders, we are able to tackle some of these problems that we're facing as a country. But right now, you know, you'd ask yourself, and you know, like these voters that politicians are talking to and trying to get them to vote, what happens if you are hungry or you've been hungry for the first 1 week? Economic times have been hard on you. The living standards are so high for you. You don't have even the strength to go line up for the voting process. So if at all these people, if at all us Kenyans as a country were not putting so much effort and on the politics and plus the politicians, and try maybe working out the living standards, the economy, the inflation, the food insecurity, maybe we would have moved some steps. But right now you see politics in itself has overshadowed everything that really is the Kenyan Mwananchi's plight that should be. So we would see ourselves going the Sri Lanka way, and we would put much emphasis on our leaders because they are directing us that way. They are telling us to go that way. And that is a perfect example still, depending on how we are right now. If you look at it in this way, you see how the president of Sri Lanka was trying to wow his voters by cutting down the VAT and all that to 25%. It's the same thing happening in Kenya in a different way, that
all these people are coming out with promises
Mm-hmm.
of what they are going to do for us when they get to government. But they're not new in the government.
Mm-hmm.
They've been there before. They had a chance to do that. Not if at all they say they wouldn't do it to conclusion, but they had a chance to do it. Maybe even just introduce it, you know. Like, let's see, it's on the way. Like, when you give you power, then you'll be able to finish what you started.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to tell us that you want to start when he give you a chance to be in government. Yet all this time, you've been in government, in your respective ministries, on your respective orders.
Mm-hmm.
You are able to run something through the Kenyan platform,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't do that. So it's the same thing. It's not different from our Sri Lankan president.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and other than that,
Mhm.
the pay-as-you-earn tax
Mhm.
was removed.
In Sri Lanka.
Yes, and a telecommunication tax that was in place was also cut by 25%.
Mhm.
There were also a series of import tax cuts.
Mhm.
And I quote, Kenya has gone the opposite direction as far as revenue generation is concerned.
Very good.
So now this is now Wahoran Doho. He's an economist who is now telling us
Mhm.
about now the Sri Lanka way.
Mhm.
And I don't know what you think about that, but he says here that Kenya's foreign reserve sit pretty now, but the next 2 years should be quite pivotal in light of the outsized external debt repayment in 2024.
And that is the big thing we're having in Kenya, that our debt is growing by the day, and we don't really have a proper way of paying it out, apart from the tax collection. And you see the reason why it has moved from 15% to 32%. It's because the prices of commodities, the GDP locally, is also going higher, because they want to find some money to pay it off. So we're still having hard times as much as Sri Lanka, despite the fact that we've gone opposite directions. For us, we want that we are not cutting down our taxes. Yeah, we want it. In fact, it's increasing compared to them, and I think that is the wrong thing. That the mathematics they did was wrong in that sense, because a government runs solely so much with the revenue it gets. So if you cut down the revenue, then you are bound to be doomed, just like Sri Lanka. Yeah.
And something else that maybe Mr. Ogutu, another economist, says that he reckons that Sri Lanka, which defaulted on $51 billion, that is 550 billion of international debt, didn't have the ample reserves to meet the upcoming debt payment obligation, a situation that was compounded by the drop in tourist earnings due to now the COVID-19. They had a lot of debt to pay, and they could not really afford to pay. However, Sri Lanka's imports cover dwindled drastically to only cover 1.7 months of imports. The reserves were not only enough to afford the country to buy food, fuel, and fertilizer, forced between using its merged reserves to either pay for international debt or to buy food. That is why Sri Lanka opted to default, because they had an option. Are we going to buy food and fuel, or are we going to pay the debt? You know?
It's the same thing happening to us, because our fuel prices are rising like on a daily basis. Right now, you don't know whether just to walk to work, because you also have to struggle with food, the insecurities that come with it. Then we have inflation. Then we have politics on the side. So we as Kenyans, will be driven to that kind of Sri Lanka kind of life with our politicians, with our leaders. Because they are not different from them. We're just issuing promises and we don't know how we're going to get there. Yeah.
But what we know is that in 2024, Kenya has a huge Eurobond payment that requires the government to have enough firepower to settle the debt that we have. Okay, I don't know if we're going to meet that debt by 2024.
We hope to.
We know that we have a lot of debt in regards to now the expressway and so many other things that
Yeah.
we have borrowed.
We still want to get more money to finish the SGR.
You know.
And apparently it is very weird because we have a lot of unsolved cases in terms of corruption. We've heard of issues that have gone silent, things like the Pandora Papers. We were expecting the Eurobond in itself was an issue. We were expecting that these leaders can come out and tell us this is what is happening, this is what we've done, and this is what we're doing. But so far, we are not having that. So as much as it is, we don't know where the country is headed. Or if there are people who know that, then they are keeping it to themselves. I don't think it has come out to the public and they have been told, you know what, our debt is this, and this is what we're remaining to pay, and we are willing to pay it for this kind of time. Now that we have a deadline by 2024, we should have paid that, the Eurobond. How are we going to do that? Yet most of our resources now, as you can see, the economy is not supporting that. Unless we have a strategy that is different, that will bring us money very quickly without having issues on it, then maybe we'll be able to pay them off. Or else we'll be losing our fundamentals like our ports, because these private investors always come with a lot of things attached to it. So you never know what interest they have in Kenya. So they'll be like, you know what, you cannot pay us, then we want to manage the railway, or we want to manage our ports. So we are hoping for the best when that time comes, that they need their money back. But at least we would give credit to the Uhuru government, because in terms of infrastructure, that is specifically roads, we are able to see where the money went to. He's made some quite good improvement as from when he took from his predecessor, that is Moi Kibaki. In the 10 years he's done a lot of roads, and the country looks nice. As much as we're paying for it, we'll be saying, okay, thank God we're paying for it, but it's serving us. That is the case we would also want to happen with the expressway, because the normal Mwananchi would like to use it, and most of us use matatus. So if they bring back the PSV back into the expressway, then that will be a plus, as much as they'll have finished all that is happening and the accidents and seeing where the problem is. Because you'd ask yourself about the expressway, is it engineering? Is it where the tolls are during the payment? What is it? Is it the speed? Why were we having accidents just recently after it was opened? So those are some of the issues. But I just hope and pray that we won't go Sri Lanka way.
But now the good thing about this whole story is that although Kenya's tourism was hit just like Sri Lanka, that is during COVID-19, it did not go down to its knees. As we were doing foreign exchange and everything else, exporting tea, flowers, diaspora, remittance, and so forth. That's a plus for us. Although we were hit just like Sri Lanka, and I know every other country was hit by the COVID-19, at least we did not go that low. And I really hope maybe somehow we're not going to go that way. But the question is that we were asking, can Kenya go the Sri Lanka way?
That is the big question today. Can Kenya go the Sri Lanka way? So you can share your comments, your views on our social media platforms, or SMSs. The number is running down your screen, so that we are able to discuss this and see the country's way forward.
Yes, and on that note, because of time, we need to take a very short commercial break here on Dissect TV. But when we come back, we'll be talking matters lifestyle. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Morning Dew Show here on Dissect TV, the cradle of goodness. Now, this is the lifestyle segment, and there's a very interesting story that we want to discuss maybe.
Yep. Usually, this is where we talk about so many things: fitness, health, entertainment, and all that in one. And today we have a very interesting topic, and it has also been highlighted on the Daily Nation, on the Standard, sorry, and that is on page 3. It is a curiosity debate hot up as many look into snake farming for profit. Since Wajakoya came out with this issue that snake farming could be lucrative and could help us pay our debts, so many people have gone into trying to do that, and as much as it's not very popular in Kenya, I think there's a study that shows that most of the Kenyans have gone to get license from the KWS to see if they can venture into this business. So today mostly we wanna talk about snake farming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to talk about the dangers, the challenges faced, and if we are, and we will leave that to you if you're to know or to tell us through our social media platforms if we are able to carry this out and maybe lower our debts. So let's just get into it. Let me just highlight what these guys are saying. Snakes have been considered medicinal in China, Japan, and other Asian countries, and that really makes us those are our markets. We want to go market antivenoms to them, and because they're using it for medicinal purposes, we also give them a chance to get their medicines. And the most interesting part about this story, I've also read it, that they also have wines and nutrition. Yes. So I don't know, can you take snake wine?
No, unless I don't know. But the moment I realized that was snake wine, I think I'll definitely maybe puke or something.
Okay, now just moving forward, as you can remember that on July 16th, we were commemorating the World Snakes Day. And that's why I bring this to you today, so that we can discuss after the Snakes Day. And we've also heard of Professor Jakoya telling us how lucrative this business is. Would you really like to venture into snake farming? Because there are a lot of things that are put in place before you do that, because you have to get a permit from the KWS. But so far we want to hear from the people who've been doing it and how much they've been really getting out of it. Yeah, because we are not really sure of what Jakoya is saying, how the numbers, how lucrative that is. So maybe we would get it with the people who've done it. And some of the people that have been mentioned here is there's Leakey. It's called Jonathan Leakey. Had one, and there are more along the coast and eastern Kenya side. But that side has people who rear snakes, the Swahili people, and coming up to this side of the Kamba side, Mboni. There's so many people rearing snakes. Maybe they didn't know how lucrative that would be. But someone like Jonathan Leakey had one that was running, and he was trying to get antivenoms from them. Yeah. So let me just read that. According to Kenya Wildlife Service, there are currently more than 50 licensed snake farms in Kenya, while more applicants for license are waiting for approval. So as I told you from the start, the numbers are increasing. So many people are going to the KWS for the approval so that they are licensed legally to have snakes. How do you rear snakes anyways? Because
so there are actually people who are doing it.
Yeah, there are people who are doing it in Kenya. Like I've just mentioned Jonathan Leakey, and you can see from the KWS information is that more than 50 licensed snake farms are in Kenya, while more applicants are also awaiting to be approved so that they get a chance to start rearing. And the demand of snake rearing has also gone up after Wajakoya's manifesto. Guys, I've seen, these snakes, I see them passing around here, I can tame them and get some money out of it. But it all comes at a risk, We have to look at the orientation first before implementation. Like we have to, maybe KWS will come out and tell us how we are supposed to capture these snakes, how we are supposed to get the anti-venom off them,
Mm-hmm.
and how we are going to sell them. All this we have to be told, because we won't say there'll be no casualties. We'll have casualties because from the religious view, we are supposed to hit them on the head and let them die. But now, right now, we are thinking of petting them and making them part of us.
How do you even catch a snake? That starting process of, maybe I've been employed at a snake farm and I'm told, okay, this is your first day to go and do what you've been trained. How is first day? I think I'd be very terrified.
I think you have to be oriented on how to do it. Maybe maybe use some money on gear, because you need the gear. Maybe something that even if it tries to bite, it doesn't really bite you. Yeah, you have to invest on gear. You have to have the technique, the skills to do it. And this is the biggest question we're asking ourselves. We don't have the skills. We don't have the necessary gear. We don't know how we're going to get these snakes. And our relationship with the snakes has not been good. Me personally speaking, I cannot try a snake. I have a phobia for snakes. Even just seeing them, I don't see anything beautiful in them. So I don't think I'll want to go that side, no matter how much money it brings. I'd rather not have to, and I'd rather not put my family into that. But if you're willing, these are some of the questions that you need answered from these farmers, or maybe from the KWS, or the people who've tried it, like Jonathan Leakey. But thinking of it, the numbers, I remember what Jacoya saying about the numbers. I don't see it reflecting so much as he said. It's like he overquoted from what you can get from this kind of business. Yeah, because if you look at it here, there's a specialist who says he's called Daniel Mitei. He says that no, sorry, it's Dr. Robert Rono. He says a single antivenom vial costs between 4,500 shillings to 20,000, depending on the snake bite and efficacy of the antivenom. So, if one can give me 4,500 shillings on the lower side, and on the higher side is 20,000 shillings, depending on which snake has bit you, so that you get the antivenom. How many snakes should you be rearing so that maybe you make maybe 100 G's?
That's a lot of snakes, and it's very risky.
And
the process.
you have to check if you want to rear snakes today. What will the snakes have? Because I think if they get hungry, they'll start eating your sheep, maybe your goats, So how do you keep them satisfied? Because they have to get satisfied, shed off their skin. So from the skin, you can sell the skin to people who make belts and stuff. Get the antivenom, then sell the meat off to the Chinese to eat it, or get wine from it, or I have heard they also get supplements from snakes. So if you want to maybe be fit, be nutritious, look good, you can also have the snake nutrients to help you pull through.
I wanted to ask about the gear issue, because you said that if you want to rear snakes, you obviously have to have the gear for it.
Yeah.
So I'm asking myself, if Mr. Jaguar in turn becomes the president, that means that this will be implemented, the snakes.
Yes.
It will be a thing in Kenya. So where are we going to get these gears? And right now we have a lot of debt. I
think if he gets to be president, because this was part of his manifesto, maybe he has a way out of how we're going to do this. But I think the best way out would be first identifying the farmers who want to go into that section of business. That one will be done by KWS, because I don't think you can rear snakes without them issuing you a license. So after you're issued with the license, before you're issued with the license, you should be able to have a program on how you're going to feed the snakes, where you're going to get the snakes from, how you're going to feed them, then the gear, and your employees are also catered for in terms of maybe insurance if at all something happens. So it's a very long stretch. Anyways, it's a very long stretch, as you can see, for before we start counting the money, because you have to orient these people on how to get the venom off that place. You have to give them security, because people now want to run into these kind of businesses because they've heard it's lucrative. But what about your safety as a person? What about your family's safety? What if you have kids below maybe 5 years old? You know, these are some things we should look at, because we are trying to tame the wild here. The snakes are supposed to be in the wild. We are not supposed to tame them. They're cuckoo. You know, there are animals that we can tame. You can tame a dog, you can tame a cat. But snakes, what happens? Cats and snakes don't get along. What happens if your cat that you've been putting as a pet in the house comes out and sees, you know what, this is a snake? You know, for him it's a red flag. It wants to kill the snake. The same thing happens with the chicken. Most hens tend to take care of their chickens, so they fight and they can also kill snakes. So there are so many things happening. I don't know how we're going to do it, but talking on there's a one person here that is very interesting, and I'd like to maybe read one or two things he said. That is, the demand of snake rearing has gone up recently. Wajakoya's manifesto has spiked Kenyans' curiosity, necessitating the KWS to include a web page on the application process of snake farms. So there's a web page on the application process of snake farms, and we would also want them to put maybe videos of orientations of how one can safeguard himself and how one can feed them, you know, the gear needed, so that by the time one is coming for the license, he's already equipped with everything they need. And necessity the KWS to include a web page on the application process of snake farms, says Paul Gennaro, a KWS communication official. Macau Kioko 58 is the proprietor of Kioko Snake Ventures in Kitui. There's one in Kitui. Many such farms make money primarily from charging tourists who want to learn about snakes or see them up close. On a good day, Kioko's enterprise, sitting on a 5-acre farm, attracts approximately 300 visitors. Foreigners pay an entrance fee of 1,000 shillings, while local pay shillings or 300. So when you look at this, it says this business is very lucrative. Because you can have a small zoo of yours where people can come and see a lot of different snakes. That will bring you money. Then if you get the anti-venom of it, that is also money.
And the skin.
Then the skin and the meat, you know. There's nothing wasted in the snake farming.
But in end, what are the risks? You are getting the risks.
Yeah, the risks now are very big, you know. The risks are big. And let's talk about some of the advantages that it has. And it says, just quote what is written on the Daily Nation, that some like David Musioka, who rear over 200 snakes at his farm in Meru, exports snakes to pet shops. You can also export them to snake shops. That's also another advantage. Exports them to pet shops in zoos in Germany, UK, and the US, and other overseas countries where a standard of snake fetches more than 10,000 shillings, that is Kenyan money. China, he says, is also an emerging market. For thousands of years, snakes have been considered medicinal in China, Japan, and other Asian countries, where people drink snake wine. Yeah, snake wine. And snake wine made from snake-based ingredients, and swallow snake supplements for nutritional purposes. It is not always lucrative and smooth at the snake farms. Kioko lost an employee and had another amputated after snake bites, but it remains undeterred. So those are some of the challenges you'll be facing if you're looking to go into snake farming. You will have to have the proper gear so that the snake bites don't affect your employees. You'll have to engage them, orient them on what they should do, and most of all, feed your snakes so that they don't get hungry and start biting the workers around there. So these are some of the risks that are there. All business have risks, it says. The snake farmer who takes extra measures to ensure death and injuries do not happen. It says, I'm used to handling snakes. I ensure I have the upper hand while handling them. So, I think before we get there, considering the risks is loss of life, which we can't have, we'll have to have a proper orientation of how we're going to do this until we get to a part where we export it. Yeah. And I hope that Mr. Ajakoya these are some of the questions that he may be able to shed some light on during the debate, to tell us how he's going to make this dream a reality without really putting the lives of people at risk and in danger. Yeah. And because the snake, this snake farming has also prompted issues with the religious side, because you see, like the Muslims, they don't rear pigs because they have a belief for it. And also on the Christian side, there's that the biblical saying that says, if a snake sees you, it should beat you on the ankle, and if you see it, you should hit it on the head. So some religious leaders also coming out and saying some of these practices are uncouth and should not be there. We also want to hear the other stakeholders like the KWS telling us more on the type of snakes that are in Kenya, the type of antivenoms that we could get. Because I don't think it's worth it if we have snakes that will fetch us maybe 2,000 or 5,000 shillings after the long run, because an antivenom depends on the bite. So if a snake is rare, I think the antivenom is much expensive compared to if we have local snakes and we can get their antivenoms very easily, then the prices will go down. Why would you want to risk your life because of that? But because of the economic strains that are there and the overstretched resources in Kenya right now, so many people are going that side where they can really make quick money. But I don't think this is quick money as such because of the process that we have to go through. It would have been easier if we were educated much on snakes, but we are yet to learn, execute, and pay our debts. So the big question is today about the debate that is there about the snake farming, if it's going to work for the Kenyans or not. So you can give us your thoughts on what you think about the snake farming process in Kenya and the practice that we are yet to venture in, since there's a number of people coming in to seek licenses. So do you think that Kenya is equipped to take up the snake farming in Kenya as it stands right now? Yeah. You can share us your comments on our social media platforms or on our Facebook, on our SMS, and our numbers are running down the screen.
Yeah, actually, it's actually said that so much of everything is dangerous, and I feel like right now that people are now thinking about venturing into snakes, and a lot of people are going to do that because now they've seen, okay, there are a lot of advantages, we can do a lot of things, you can get a lot of money, but at the end of it, what is the disadvantage? But you should tell us what you think about this. Is this something?
Do you know that the last time, in Machakos, that side, most of them have been rearing snakes. But for us, we thought, these guys are they're witchcraft. There's some witchcraft happening, But right now they're telling us we are not doing sorcery or something. We're going to get paid for this. So just take your time, guys, before you venture into this. I know there are some people who are doing it without even asking the KWS for their licenses. Please, they have to license you so that they take care of your interests in terms of health, mandate, and how you do it, and also progressing and seeing how you can move from one thing to the other.
Mhm.
So don't try it if you're not licensed, because if at all the other side, which is the risks that you're trying to manage here, comes on your side, you'll have no way out.
Okay, that's it from now, this segment. Right now, we need to close this show, but thank you very much for staying with us, for staying with us rather, and for tuning in throughout the whole hour. We hope that you're going to be there tomorrow, same time, same place. I've been your host, Ann Mungai.
And I'm your host, Ann Mungai Kilambo.
Have a good day.